Admiral Corvin stood at the helm of the Terran Defense Command, gazing out at the stars through the massive viewports of Earth's orbital station. He had received the transmission just minutes ago. The Kylax Imperium, an authoritarian and highly disciplined alien race, had finally decided to address humanity directly. For years, humanity's rapid expansion into space had caught the eye of many alien species, but none so dangerously as the Kylax. They viewed humans as a chaotic and unpredictable threat, a species that didn't abide by the rigid structures of galactic society. Corvin's comlink beeped, and his second-in-command, Captain Raya, appeared on the display. Her face was tense. "Admiral, the Kylax delegation will arrive in Earth's orbit within the hour. High Commander Zilra is leading the delegation. It's more than just a diplomatic mission, it looks like a show of force." Corvin exhaled slowly. "So, they want to intimidate us into submission. We knew this day would come. What's their approach vector?" "They're entering the solar system now. We've prepared the diplomatic team as requested, and all necessary contingencies are in place. But I'm not sure this meeting is going to be a typical negotiation." Corvin nodded. "The Kylax fear us because they don't understand us. Their entire society is built on order and control. What they see as chaos, we see as creativity. We'll need to be careful." As Corvin prepared for the meeting, he thought about what the Kylax didn't understand. Humanity's history was one of surviving in harsh, unpredictable environments. From Earth's turbulent weather systems to the wild, untamed frontiers of space, humans had thrived not through strict order, but through adaptability and risk-taking. Corvin knew that this would be his best weapon during the negotiations. When the Kylax arrived, it would be more than just a diplomatic challenge. It would be a clash of worldviews, and Corvin was ready to show them why humanity had endured for so long, even on a world as dangerous as Earth. The Kylax delegation arrived in Earth's orbit aboard a sleek, angular ship that exuded the cold efficiency of their species. High Commander Zilra stood at the front, her tall, imposing frame wrapped in ceremonial armor, the crest of her rank displayed proudly on her chest. Her four eyes, black as the void, observed everything with a calculated precision. The chosen meeting ground was Central Park, New York. Admiral Corvin had insisted on the location, despite protests from his team. The Kylax preferred controlled environments, sterile meeting halls, and guarded facilities. But Corvin had chosen this open, public space for a reason. He wanted the Kylax to see humanity in its natural state, vibrant, unpredictable, and free. Zilra's shuttle descended into the park, causing quite a stir among the citizens. But to Corvin's delight, people went about their day as usual. Joggers continued their laps. Dog walkers strolled along, and children played, filling the air with laughter and shouts. It was exactly the kind of chaotic scene that would unsettle the Kylax. As Zilra stepped off her shuttle, her eyes immediately narrowed at the sight of the bustling park. "This is your meeting place, Admiral." Her voice, though perfectly translated, held an undercurrent of disdain. "We expected something more organized." Corvin smiled, extending his hand in greeting. "Welcome to Earth, High Commander. This is Central Park, one of the most beloved places in our city. I thought it would provide the perfect backdrop for our discussion." Zilra's gaze swept across the park again, her expression unreadable. Behind her, a contingent of Kylax soldiers stood at attention, their postures rigid and their faces expressionless. "We value order and discipline," Zilra said, her voice cold. "What I see here is chaos." Corvin kept his smile. "We see it differently, Commander. To us, this is life. It's how we thrive." The meeting between the two delegations began with formalities as expected. The Kylax spoke of their concerns over humanity's rapid expansion into the galaxy, their disregard for proper procedures, and their unpredictable behavior. But as they spoke, Corvin noticed something interesting. High Commander Zilra's attention kept drifting toward the children playing nearby. One child in particular, Marcus, caught her eye. He was climbing a tree with determination, his face set in concentration. Halfway up, he slipped and fell, landing on the soft grass below with a thud. Zilra flinched at the sight, her rigid posture tightening. But instead of crying or calling for help, Marcus simply brushed himself off, grinned, and began climbing the tree again. Zilra's expression twisted into one of confusion. "Admiral, your young are engaging in dangerous activities. Why do you not intervene?" Corvin glanced at the scene and smiled. "He's fine. Children fall. They get back up. It's how they learn." Zilra's eyes widened slightly. "Learn? By risking harm?" Corvin nodded. "Yes. We let them explore, take risks, fail, and try again. It's part of how we grow, how we survive. Humanity has learned to thrive through adaptability. We learn more from our mistakes than from avoiding them." Zilra's gaze lingered on Marcus as he reached the top of the tree, triumphant, before climbing back down and running off to join his friends. The High Commander's frown deepened, but Corvin could see the wheels turning in her mind. As the day went on, High Commander Zilra and her delegation observed more of the park's activity, and their discomfort grew with each passing moment. They were surrounded by what, to them, seemed like chaos. Children ran freely, screaming and laughing, climbing jungle gyms, swinging on monkey bars, and chasing each other in games that had no apparent rules or structure. Zilra watched in stunned silence as a young girl, barely 5 years old, fearlessly leaped from a swing at its highest arc, landing in a heap on the ground. Zilra flinched. Her eyes darted toward Admiral Corvin, expecting some form of reprimand or immediate medical attention. But to her surprise, the girl stood up, dusted off her knees, and ran back to the swing as if nothing had happened. "How can you allow this?" Zilra finally asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Your young are engaging in dangerous activities with no supervision. There is no order here, no discipline. This cannot be how your species survives." Corvin folded his arms, smiling thoughtfully. "What you're seeing, Commander, is how we thrive. Humans learn from experience. We encourage curiosity and risk-taking because it builds resilience. Every fall, every scraped knee, teaches us something. We don't avoid danger. We learn how to navigate it." One of Zilra's advisors, a Kylax scientist named Ithix, stepped forward, holding a scanning device that hummed quietly as he pointed it at a group of children. "But the injuries, the potential for harm is incalculable," he murmured, clearly puzzled. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as his device displayed a list of minor injuries, nothing severe, but enough to unsettle the Kylax delegation. Just then, a boy named Lucas tumbled off the jungle gym and hit the ground with a thud. The Kylax soldiers tensed, their instincts telling them to rush in and assist. But Corvin merely watched, a calm expression on his face. Lucas stood up, winced slightly, and then grinned as he dusted himself off, ready to try the climb again. Zilra's mandibles clicked in frustration. "This is madness, Admiral. There is no control here. Your children should be protected, nurtured in safe environments where they can be taught properly, without the risk of injury." Corvin shook his head. "We don't believe in shielding our children from the world, High Commander. We let them experience it. That's how they grow stronger. It's not about chaos, it's about adaptability. Order has its place, but too much of it stifles creativity, innovation, and progress." Zilra was quiet for a moment, her compound eyes narrowing as she studied the scene in front of her. The rigid order of the Kylax Imperium had always ensured their survival, but she couldn't deny that there was something powerful in the way humans embraced unpredictability. They didn't fear failure. They learned from it, and in doing so, they became stronger. As the hours passed, the tension between the two delegations began to ease. Zilra's initial disdain for the human way of life was slowly being replaced by curiosity. She began to ask more questions, and her tone softened as she and Corvin discussed the differences between their species. We Thylax have perfected the art of order, Zilura admitted. Our society is built on strict protocols, regulations, and control. It has allowed us to expand across the galaxy, to maintain stability for centuries. But I see now that this stability has come at a cost. Corvin raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Zilura hesitated, her eyes drifting back to the children playing. We have become stagnant. Our people are so afraid of risk, of failure, that we no longer innovate. We cling to the safety of what we know, but we've stopped pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Corvin nodded, understanding beginning to dawn. That's the difference between us, Commander. Humans thrive on uncertainty. We embrace it because it forces us to grow, to adapt, to create. It's why we survived on a planet that has thrown every possible danger at us. And it's why we've been able to explore the stars despite the risks. Zilura's gaze remained fixed on the playground. Perhaps there is something to be learned from your species. Your willingness to accept failure, to take risks, it is not a weakness, as we once thought. It is your strength. The moment of realization was significant, not just for Zilura, but for her entire delegation. The rigid walls of the Thylax worldview were beginning to crumble, and with them came the possibility of a new kind of relationship between their species and humanity. A relationship not built on fear or control, but on mutual understanding and cooperation. Corvin smiled. It's never too late to learn something new, Commander, and it's never too late to take a risk. The sun began to set over Central Park, casting a warm golden glow over the playground as the children continued to play. Zilura stood at the edge of the park, watching the scene with a newfound sense of wonder. What had once seemed like dangerous chaos now appeared to her as something entirely different: freedom. A small voice broke her thoughts. "Miss Alien Lady, do you want to try the slide? It's really fun." Zilura turned to see a young girl, no older than 6, looking up at her with wide, curious eyes. The High Commander blinked, momentarily taken aback. Her delegation stiffened behind her, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. Corvin chuckled softly beside her. "What do you say, High Commander? Care to experience human recreation firsthand?" Zilura hesitated, her pride warring with her curiosity. Finally, she gave a stiff nod. "I suppose in the interest of cultural exchange, I could attempt this slide." The little girl beamed, grabbing Zilura's hand and pulling her toward the playground. The sight of the fearsome Thylax general being led by a human child was almost too much for Corvin to contain his amusement. But what followed was even more remarkable. Zilura climbed the ladder with awkward, jerky movements, her ceremonial armor clinking against the metal rungs. At the top, she hesitated again, glancing nervously at the children waiting below. "Like this?" she asked, her usual authoritative tone replaced by uncertainty. The children nodded eagerly. "Just push off and go down," they encouraged. With a deep breath, Zilura pushed herself off the top of the slide. Her descent was anything but graceful. Her limbs flailed slightly, and her mandibles clicked in alarm. But when she reached the bottom, something extraordinary happened. She laughed. It wasn't the sound Corvin had expected. It was a strange, clicking noise, almost like a hiccup, but it was unmistakably a laugh. The children cheered, and even the Thylax soldiers seemed unsure how to react. Zilura stood, brushing herself off, her exoskeleton flushing a faint blue, the Thylax equivalent of a blush. "That was surprisingly invigorating," she admitted, a hint of awe in her voice. Corvin grinned. "Congratulations, High Commander. You've just experienced one of humanity's greatest weapons, fun." As Zilura and her delegation prepared to depart, there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The Thylax had come to Earth expecting to find a chaotic, dangerous species in need of control. Instead, they had discovered something far more complex, a species that thrived in the face of uncertainty, that grew stronger through failure, and that embraced the unknown with open arms. Before boarding her shuttle, Zilura turned to Corvin, her eyes thoughtful. "Admiral, I believe there is much our species can learn from one another. I hope this is only the beginning of our cooperation." Corvin nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "I agree, High Commander. The galaxy is a big place, and there's so much more for us to explore together." As the Phylax shuttle lifted off into the sky, Corvin watched it disappear into the horizon. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly optimistic about the future. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was ready to lead the way.